Seriously, how is this custom keyboard only $30? This has to be one of the best sounding keyboards I've built. The TES68 comes in solid and translucent cases. The solid case is white, and the translucent ones come in black, purple or green. The one I have with me today is the white solid case. The packaging is as bare bones as it gets. You'll only find a manual and the keyboard itself inside the box. Because this is a custom keyboard, the package doesn't include any switches or keycaps. The case is made entirely from plastic with simple straight lines throughout. The finish is kind of grainy, and the texture is similar to that on the N Pro 2. It also has non-adjustable rubber feet on the back. Now, although this is a cheap keyboard, the case does feel pretty solid. It weighs in at 570 grams without the switches and keycaps installed. Over the front of the keyboard, you'll find a steel plate that's mounted onto the case. Under that is a silicone dampening layer and a hot swap PCB that supports 3 or 5 pin switches. The hot swap sockets are generic, they're not the Kale or Gatron variants that you might be familiar with. Lastly, you'll find a very thin layer of foam included in the case. This keyboard is powered by 2 AAA batteries. That's quite uncommon for a mechanical keyboard. I recommend using lithium batteries for this, by the way. They don't leak or corrode your contact points. I use these Energizer lithium batteries for all my electronics and it's been working great for me. There's no wired connection here. It pairs to your computer through a Bluetooth 5.0 connection, or you can use the 2.4 GHz dongle that's included. There's no perky RGB on this either. The only light you'll see are these 3. They turn blue when you're connecting in Bluetooth and green when you're connecting to the 2.4 GHz dongle. The stabilizers here are plate mounted and they come bone dry from the factory. I decided to go with Akko Radiant Red switches for this build. It's my first time trying Akko switches, and I heard these are excellent budget switches with a deep sounding profile. They have a 53 gram actuation force, 62 gram bottom out force, and a 3.5mm travel. For the keycaps, I went with Honeymilk PBT keycaps from AliExpress. This is also my first time trying out XDA profile keycaps. Here's a comparison of what they look like compared to your regular cherry profile keycaps. With that out of the way, let's start the build and modding process. I cut some 2mm EVA foam and filled in all the empty spaces inside the keyboard to reduce some of the hollowness. Next, I did a tempest tape mod with some masking tape. I used 2 layers of masking tape, making sure to cut some holes for the power switch, JST cable connector, and the standoffs. I also cut the PE foam that came with this keyboard and placed it on top of the PCB. If you're doing the PE foam mod like I am, remember to cut out spaces where the stabilizers go. Lastly, let's tune the stabilizers. I used some Krytox 205G0 on the stem and inner walls of the housing, and I lubed the stabilizer wires with a good amount of dielectric grease. I noticed that one side of the spacebar stabilizer was a little loose and it was moving around. I used some medical tape here to reduce the gap between the stabilizer housing and the plate. Now, time to put on the switches, add the keycaps, and let's find out how this keyboard sounds. Before that, please consider helping the channel out by leaving a thumbs up and subscribing for more keyboard content. So what are some things I like and dislike about the keyboard? Let's talk about the pros. Starting with the decent build quality and the thocky sound signature. Even before any mods, the stock sound from this keyboard is pretty decent. It doesn't sound too hollow because of the silicone dampening sheet and the steel plate. You could easily lube the stabilizers and just call it a day. Next up, value. $30 for a custom keyboard kit with hot swap functionality, 2 connection modes, and a silicone dampener is an instant buy for me. Another thing I like about the Tester68, it's its modability. I'm not sure if that's a word, but it's the combination of the ease of modding and the general risk-free feeling you have while you're doing it. It's one thing trying difficult mods on expensive keyboards. I'd be afraid of messing up and quite literally burning my money. Knowing this keyboard is $30 gives you the freedom and confidence to experiment with any mod you've wanted to try out. Lastly, connectivity. The Bluetooth 5.0 paired quickly and it never dropped out. The 2.4 GHz dongle worked equally as well. This keyboard even wakes from sleep relatively quickly. I never had to wait more than 5 seconds for it to wake. That puts it ahead of some of the more expensive keyboards I have, like the LK67 and the Pro 2. Now onto the cons. The hot swap sockets are loose, and depending on the switch you're using, you might pull out the switch while you're trying to remove the keycaps. These were all the keycaps that came out with this switch attached while I was trying to remove them. It doesn't affect the use or functionality of the keyboard, but it may be annoying when you're trying to change keycaps and keep the same switch installed. The final con I can list is the stiff typing experience. There's no flex to this. The rigid steel plate, the top mounting system, and the lack of flex cuts on the PCB makes this a really stiff typing experience. If you're after flex, this may not be the keyboard for you. Let me know in the comments if you've managed to make yours a bit more flexy. So to sum up, who is this keyboard for and should you buy it? If you're looking for a budget custom keyboard, or if you just want something affordable that you can use to test switches, keycaps, dampening materials, or literally anything you want, the Tester68 is the keyboard to get. It's affordable, it works, it's easy to mod, and it sounds good. There's literally no competition at this price point. This keyboard is an absolute steal, and it deserves a spot in every keyboard enthusiast collection. I might just get another one for myself. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.